For a long time, I thought I was just bad at getting hired. Interviews would go well, sometimes incredibly well. Managers smiled, shook my hand, and told me they'd be in touch soon. I'd walk out feeling hopeful, already imagining the first paycheck, the routine of a normal life, then nothing, no call, no email, just silence. At first I blamed myself. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe someone else had better experience. Rejection is normal when you're job hunting. Everyone says that. But after dozens of interviews that all ended the same way, something felt off. The first real clue came from a small warehouse supervisor who sounded uneasy on the phone. When I called to follow up, he hesitated before speaking. "Look, something came up during your background check." I was confused. "I don't have a record." Another pause. "Well," he said carefully, "someone called us. Said they were family. Told us you had legal issues." My stomach dropped. Over the next few weeks the pattern became clear. Every time I applied somewhere, someone contacted the employer and warned them about me. Different accusations each time: fraud, drugs, trouble with the law. None of it was true. Eventually I found out who was making the calls. My parents. When I confronted my father, he didn't deny it. He didn't even sound angry. "If you'd just come home and apologize," he said calmly. None of this would be necessary. Apologize for what? He never explained. After that, the text started. "Come home and apologize." Maybe I'll stop. At first I thought he was bluffing. But the months passed, and the interference didn't stop. Employers kept disappearing after promising interviews. My savings slowly drained away. 8 months later, I didn't have an apartment anymore. I bounced between shelters, borrowed couches, and nights where I just walked around until morning, because there wasn't anywhere else to go. Through all of it, the same message kept appearing on my phone, still being stubborn. "You know what you need to do." The strange thing was that my anger faded after a while. Not because I forgave them, because arguing in my head stopped feeling useful. The only decision left was whether I would give in. I didn't. One afternoon, I was sitting in a public library, filling out another job application, when a woman sat down across from me. She studied me for a moment before speaking. "You're harder to find than I expected," she said. I assumed she had mistaken me for someone else. Then she said my name. That got my attention. I asked how she knew me, but instead of answering, she asked a few questions about my parents, about where I'd been staying, about my grandmother. My grandmother had died 10 years earlier. When I mentioned that, the woman nodded. "Yes," she said. That's when she hired me. From her bag, she pulled out a thick sealed envelope and slid it across the table. "Your grandmother told me to keep track of things from a distance," she explained. "And if things ever got bad enough, I was supposed to find you and give you this." Inside the envelope were legal documents and letters written in my grandmother's handwriting. Years before she died, she had created a trust in my name. It wasn't huge, but it was enough to create stability, housing, legal help, a fresh start. What made it unusual were the conditions. The funds couldn't be accessed while I was living under my parents' control. But if there was documented interference with my independence, especially my employment, the trust would immediately transfer into my control. My grandmother had seen the family dynamic long before I had. Within weeks, things changed. The trust paid for a small apartment and a lawyer. Once companies were contacted formally about the false accusations my parents had been spreading, the situation looked very different. The word defamation started appearing in letters. My father texted me once after that. "Why are lawyers calling people about this?" I didn't reply. A few days later he sent another message. "We should talk." I still didn't answer. After that, the texts stopped. There was no dramatic confrontation, No apology. Just silence. The kind that comes when someone realizes their control no longer works. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. 8 months of instability leaves marks that don't disappear overnight. But for the first time in years, I could apply for a job without wondering who might be calling behind my back. And, for the first time in my life, my future didn't belong to my parents.